Hello everybody, this is Danny from Deep South Homestead on Porch Time today. Beautiful day, guys. Just beautiful. Weather has been perfect. I mean, it's just been very nice. But today on Porch Time, we're sitting back, we're enjoying the cabin. We got lots of work going on over here. I mean, tons of work going on in the cabin. Guys, while I'm working, that's what I love. I don't classify it as really work, because I enjoy doing it. And when I enjoy doing it, it's like the Lord and I can commune with one another. We can just fellowship together. He can speak to me while I'm just doing what I love to do. I'm not having to really think about anything because it's just like it comes natural to me. I've done it for so long. And that's the good thing about doing this type of work that I'm doing over here. But today I want to talk about the boat in my yard is not just an ornament. And I'll tell you, we'll talk about that later, but we're going to lead up to that. Everywhere I look today, I'm seeing one warning right after another warning. And they just seem to be coming faster and faster on a daily basis. And I mean, David Dubine over at Adapt 2030, the Ice Age Farmer. I mean, I watch all them, and I commune back and forth with some of them. Sasha Dobler, different ones. I have a lot of their literature and stuff like that. They've contacted me and sent me some stuff. And now Valentina Zarkova has never contacted me, but I really would like to have a chance to, get her input on some things. But I see all this stuff happening on a daily basis, and I've talked about it, and I've told y'all over on Patreon, put up some videos over there about my beliefs about what's going to happen and what's going on. Things I can't really talk about freely here, and a lot of y'all are saying, Danny, why don't you talk on YouTube about what you talk about on Patreon? Well, guys, YouTube is really cracking down right now. And I've got to be very, very careful about what I do on YouTube, or they will pull my channel. And if they pull my channel, then you get nothing. I get nothing. I get to do nothing, and you get nothing. So that's why we put up some videos over, on Patreon. And we're actually thinking about even creating some other channels just to have a backup, just in case that happens. And if we do, we'll tell you what channels they are. But right now, we are putting the controversial stuff over on Patreon. The stuff that we feel like is truly important, but we just can't say it here because it's not politically correct. And today, I'm going to have to basically talk in riddles to be safe. So this boat that's in the yard is not just an ornament. Now, like I mentioned, we sit back and I've seen all the controversial things. I've heard all the tinfoil hat theories. I've heard all this stuff coming in. And, how much of it is true, how much of it is not true, that's the part that we as individuals have to weed out. Now, I have my beliefs. You have your beliefs. And I'm pretty sure none of them will match each other because we all see things in a different light. And we all see things differently. Doesn't mean that one of us is any more wrong than the other one. Doesn't mean that one of us is any more right than the other one. It just simply means, just like the scripture says, that one day, every one of us is going to have to give an account for what we believe. In Romans it talks about one person holds this day holy, one person holds that day holy, one person eats this, one person eats that. But all do it to glorify God, and at one point or other, we're all going to have to give an account for what we believe. And what we believe as far as what's going on around us right now, I'm not going to argue with anybody because, to be honest with you, I don't think anyone knows the whole story. I think we can all sit around and talk about what we believe. There is a few things that we can actually nail down, and we know they're happening, like the grand solar minimum. We know this is going to happen because history tells us that it will. When we see these things, we can look back in historical records and we can see that every so many years the sun does do things. Our solar system does things. You know, Orion, Pleiades, all those things come through at certain times. Saturn does, Jupiter does things at certain times. I mean, this is just historically accurate evidence that we have. Now, we sit back and we see what are the agendas, because everybody's talking about, oh, you know, there's agendas for everything. You know, they're trying to depopulate the earth. Well, guys, mankind has been trying to depopulate things since the beginning. This is nothing new. All the wars and stuff like that is to thin the population out. Even God in the Bible would tell the Israelites, go in, wipe out every man, woman, child, even kill the beasts that's there. And if Israel didn't do it, they were punished for it. And at some point, the enemy would rise back up and cause them problems. I mean, so even God told his own people to thin out places and get rid of the populations. So this is not new, okay? Solomon says there is nothing new under the sun. So what's the hype right now? What are we morphing into? The thing is this, guys. There are some agendas taking place by the elite and the powers to be, whoever you want to call them. You know, whether it be Uncle Sam or whoever. How much of it is actual truth and how much of it is not truth? That's the part we have to really get down to brass tacks on. Now, let's stop and look at a few things. People are stocking up on things right now, which I think is I think it's a great idea. This coming year, I do believe we're going to see some shortages on potatoes. I believe we're going to see shortages on sugar. The food system is now being manipulated. We now have meat that has been raised that is lab meat. It's not real meat. It's lab meat. And got that mosquitoes sitting here buzzing around me everywhere. It got warmed up a little bit today and the mosquitoes has come out. But we have lab meat that's being raised. And not only do we have lab meat, the powers to be, whoever they are, whoever you want to claim that they are, or whoever I want to claim that they are, is tampering with the food system big time. Lots of people now are saying, oh, we're storing up rice. Well, guys, there's lots of controversy about the rice. There's the big thing about arsenic in rice. There's the big thing if you're getting rice from China, that it's got a lot of plastic in it. They're saying now that if you buy the Chinese rice or the cheap rice or rice from China, to pour it in water, the ones that float, take them out because they've got plastic in them. They're doing that to stretch it and to fill the belly. It has virtually no nutritional value to it whatsoever. We have that theory out there. And we have people who's, you know, like we talked about over on Patreon, I talked about food shortage, whether it was real or not, about the great deception that's taking place, and guys, some of it is deception that's taking place right now. Do I believe that there is a shortage of green beans? And the answer is absolutely not. Do I believe that there was a manipulation of the market to make us think that there might be? Yes, I do believe that. I do believe that there is, and if you want to hear the whole video, you got to go over to Patreon because I really talked about a lot of it over there. But guys, the bottom line is this. Some of the stuff is real. There are people out there like myself, like David, Dubai, Christian, and different ones from Ice Age Farmer, and Valentina Zarkova, and all these others that are, Sasha Dobler, the real scientists that's out there, the real people who are putting out stuff as soon as it happens. Probably a bit more up on it, a lot of it, than I am. Guys, these guys are like watchmen on the wall. They're there trying to warn people, trying to tell them, this is actually happening. This is real. And going back in bringing out historical documents and putting it up, showing we're going into cycle 25 now, and showing how that the sun is going down in the geomagnetic fields. I'm not going into all that, but how all this stuff is playing a part in our weather cooling down. And we've got geoengineering going on up above us up here with the spraying of the air to keep the sun from coming in. And when you don't have the sun coming into your plants like you need, because there's a film in the sky blocking out a lot of the good UV rays that you need, what you have is photosynthesis does not take place in your plants like it needs to. Thus, you have weak plants. And when you have weak plants, you have weak crops. When you have weak crops, you have shortages of food. I mean, these are things, guys, that are happening. And when you have as much aluminum and stuff as we have being put into the atmosphere and it's coming to the ground, we're seeing it now in the dying of trees. The tops of trees are dying out. Lots of trees are just getting funguses on them. They're dying. It's happening here. We've lost all of our sassafras trees now to some kind of fungus or bugs. The chinkapin trees, they're all died because of some kind of disease that's hit them. The chestnuts died because of diseases that's hit them. Guys, it's just one epidemic right after another epidemic of things that's beginning to happen. This is not unusual. Matthew chapter 24 tells us in all that discord, it tells us that these things are going to happen. And that it shouldn't bother us. It should, but it's got to happen. Christ says it has got to happen. And guys, as hard as it is on us, I do believe that for each one of us that's a true child of the King, I believe that we will have our own little Goshen. And now I'm speaking in words that I hope that if you don't understand it, I hope you'll go look it up, and you will understand. I think we'll all have our own Goshens. I'm a community builder. I like to build community, but the harder I try to build community, it seems like the worse it gets. People today claim that they want community, but at the same time, nobody seems like they can get along with anybody. And Wanda and I try to help as many people as we can. We helped a couple out this week. Blessed them with some animals and stuff like that, and with some sugar cane and things, and that was a blessing to us, and with some things that we needed. That's community. That is working with one another. And guys, I'm going to tell you, if you're going to survive the coming years, you better learn what it is to barter. You better learn what it is to get along with somebody and work with them. I worked with another person for some lumber that I needed. We're trying to work out all these things. Wanda and I need things. We try to work with people, not necessarily money changing hands, but working deals with people so that we can each get what we need. Now, sometimes money changes hands because the other person needs money. But guys, the boat in the yard is not just an ornament. And I know you keep saying, why are you saying that? Well, you'll get it in a minute. We all need to prepare. I can sit here and I can tell you with every breath that I have to prepare. But unless you feel the urge yourself, it's not going to do you any good. At some point, an LCE is going to happen. It happens to everyone. No one is immune to it. And when the LCE happens to you, if you've prepared properly, then the LCE will not be as bad as it could have been, and you will probably come out on the other side doing okay. We had our LCE one year was Hurricane Katrina. I went through it with a breeze, no problems. I didn't have any electricity for 20-some days, but you know what? I still eat good. I never went a day without a meal. I never missed a day's work. Nothing like that. I still just kept right on hammering because there had been preparations made in advance. But yet a lot of people were standing in lines everywhere. They didn't have gas. They didn't have this. They didn't have that. They needed some assistance. They needed this. And we didn't have to have that because we prepared for it. And maybe your LCE may be a physical issue. Maybe the LCE might be what's coming in the future for all of us. We're all in the future going to have an LCE of some sort. If this grand solar minimum that we keep talking about continues to progress, which you should see this year that it could possibly be a real deal instead of going, oh my God, I don't believe in that, you could sit back and say, we've broken more cold records over the whole earth this year earlier than we ever have. We've lost more crops this year to inclement weather because of whether it's geoengineering, man-made, or whether it's just an act of God or whatever. We've lost a lot of our food sources this year. The next year we're going into, looks like we're going to go into it pretty lean as far as food storage as a nation is concerned. And guys, farmers are dropping out left and right, and farmland's being bought up by big corporations. Now, if you don't believe me, just check it out. It's happening worldwide. I read somewhere that no, it didn't. Somebody actually sent me an email of a paper stating that I think it was Europe that some place over there, it's like 1,000 farmers a day are losing their farms. 1,000 a day. At that rate, who will provide the food? Over on Patreon, I talk about the war at Bosnia. I talk about how that the people and how that when they went out to get food, it wasn't just like we go to the grocery store to them. Yeah, they could go to the grocery store and they had some food there, but the enemy was sitting off in distances and they just take crack shots at people. Just hey, let's just see if we can hit that one over yonder. And you might just be walking across there and next thing, you didn't hear no shot. Next thing you know, you just dead. Bullet hit you, People were starving to death. They were standing in lines and groups, and they would get into big groups of people, and the enemy would just fire into the crowds from the hills, and just you never knew who was going to get killed. And some would make it home with food, some wouldn't, but because you're starving to death, you're going to die anyway, they would take their chances. We haven't faced that here in this country. And guys, the boat's in the yard. Now think about that. Think about it. The boat is in the yard. It's not just an ornament. I want you to think about for a moment who had a boat in their yard. There was an individual who had a boat there, and it sat there for around 100 years. And most people just laughed and mocked and scoffed at him because he had a boat in his yard. A big boat. What are you doing with a boat in your yard? It's never rained. Why would you put a boat out here on this hill? What is wrong with you? Are you some kind of nut? What's going to happen? Oh my gosh, I can't believe that. It has never rained. Why would we worry about it raining now? You built this boat, you're a nut. You're a nutcase. Well, this gentleman kept this boat in his yard for over 100 years. But he kept the faith. And one day, he needed that boat. Because the fountains of the deep broke up. And rain began to fall from the heavens. For 40 days and for 40 nights the rain fell. And because he had that boat, him And eight souls were saved on the face of the earth because of that boat. He cried out to the people for 100 years, trying to warn the people that a flood was coming and that they should prepare, but none listened. And it says, by grace, Noah found grace in the eyes of God. It didn't say anything about his wife. It didn't say anything about his kids. It said Noah found grace in the eyes of God. And because of that, God spared his wife and his 3 sons and their wives. 8 souls. But you know what was the crazy thing about that? Over on the other side of the flood, once the earth had been destroyed, and there was only 8 people left on the face of the earth, do you know it wasn't many years after that that a man named Nimrod was born? And that the Tower of Babel was built? And for the first time in history, God said, let us go down and see what man is doing. In other words, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit all together. Let us go down and see what man is doing. And when they came down and looked at man was building a Tower of Babel, trying to get back to the heavens, God said there's just continual evil. There's nothing that they can't do. They all speak the same language. So God confused their language, and the whole people were dispersed on the face of the earth at that point. My point is this. God spared mankind with a boat. And rather than mankind being destroyed forever, God made a way for him to survive and his family. And guys, people on YouTube are sitting here talking about things that's going to happen. And I'm going to tell you, I get made fun of all the time. I get some real ugly comments on my channel. We get wacko emails. People just think we're a nutcase a lot of times. The guys, the bottom line is this. I only do it for one reason, and that is to get information out to you guys so that whatever God lays on my heart, I can move to you and say, you know, this is what God has showed me, and I believe this is going to happen. He showed me that it's going to happen, and I don't want you to perish along with the rest. And guys, the boat in the yard is not just an ornament. It's there for a reason. And I'm just trying to sit here and figure out some other way to put it where maybe, just maybe, it would make you understand the seriousness of what we're facing as a nation. It is serious. It is one of them things that once it begins to happen, guys, there will be no turning back. And times like this will be times that we sit back and we go, you know, I remember hearing about that. I remember them talking about that. Man, I wish I'd have done something about it. So, guys, I'm going to leave you with that thought. The boat in the yard is not just an ornament. It's there for a reason. It's there for you to be able to prepare for the future for your family. So thank you, guys, from Deep South Homestead.